Hi everyone, how are you? It's me, and I thought I would, since our time was cut short early last night, I thought that I would kind of more fully address the meditation that I'm creating to kind of help orient us. So the good news is, right, is that we've been working together for over 6 years. So we've done all this cleansing, and we've done a lot of just cleansing, right? So what if we start kind of orienting to where we really want to go, kind of thing? And we've done this in some different versions as we go. But this particular meditation is going to be inspired by the approach of the new book out by Paul Selig called Innocence, which really all of that work seems to be kind of like another way of saying the Course in Miracles, right? All the Course in Miracles work. So the Course in Miracles has the whole thing of like innocence, right? And so according to the Selig work, innocence is not only the absence of guilt, so to speak, or innocence is basically this idea that our personality self is no longer kind of projected onto that which we're experiencing. So if we didn't have a personality self, then from what self would we be oriented from? It would become, I believe what his work says is the monad. Monad, is that right? Anyways, but basically our Christ self. It's the portion of us that's eternal, right? So the Course of Miracles has the word of that which is changeless, and he also says the same thing. There's so much reminiscent between Selig work and Course of Miracles. What's interesting is just the Selig work has these kind of iterations, is that the right word, about things you can say to set your intention more clearly to go to where you need to go. And so it's this idea that everything in your life is your teacher. There's nothing in your life that shouldn't be there. And this idea that everything in your life, I think he often starts sections by saying, what you see before you now is, basically what you see before you now is something that you are coherent to, you are correlated to, it's something you've agreed to, right? So you could sit there and say, well, I don't think, I didn't agree to this. Well, according to this body of work and most spiritual literature, that that everything that is appearing is exactly where we're supposed to be. So this idea of like making peace with, life is our teacher, right? Everything is your teacher. And really creating this more of a harmonious, productive communication between us and life. And so the way a lot of the Selig work will kind of position this is to say something like, if you're not going to be projecting your past onto the present moment, the idea of that is just saying, behold, I make all things new. Right? So you're putting yourself on notice that you are rejecting the past, that you are this eternal being, and this is a fresh moment, and there's nothing that should be overlaid on it, right? So there's kind of in this one book, the common set of phrases goes something like, behold, I will make all things new. God is, God is, God is, and then I am free, I am free, I am free. So what this seems to do, and I believe it says in there something like it creates a portal. So I've been studying a lot of, how have I been studying this? I've been on some very deep conversations about, okay, I get it. This whole world's a hologram. Like, I totally get it. So, and everything that I ever thought I understood about this world is just not as it is. So my question is, well, what are the new rules? What's the new game? If everything's a hologram, then how do you play the game, right? Like if you were playing Monopoly, you would want to know what are the rules of Monopoly, right? You can't play Monopoly unless you know the rules, right? So what's been happening in my unfoldment and where I'm at right now is recognizing that this is a hologram and there is that nothing is as it seemed, right? And I'm, in my level of just kind of my experiences lately is really starting to get that. So then my question is, okay, then give me the rules. Give me the new rules, right? And part of the new rules is the fact that it's this idea that, and this isn't a totally foreign idea, right? In the East, it's always the this is all Maya, this is all illusion, right? Um, so the new part of the new rules, like for instance, one of the ways that I'm playing with the new rules is when I look at anything um, on the news, things like that, is you tell you it's like as if you're watching a movie, right? That you're recognizing that this is all kind of a, a series of experiences of unfoldments all around us that is really for our soul's growth and development. And so just to practice it on a more regular basis, as I'm practicing the detachment more and more, hands off grubby, get my grubby hands off this 3D world, and to start to become calibrated to that's like I remember, that's right, I remember that this 3D world is so not the full story. There's so much more going on, and can I be teachable in this moment, that I not project onto this moment that I think the way anything's supposed to roll, I think that things are supposed to go this way or that way, right? So that's why at the end he says, I am free, I am free, I am free, which is what you're doing at that point is you are basically again getting our grubbing hands off the 3D world, and you're remembering, that's right, I'm free. I'm this eternal being. I this massive amounts of energy are pouring into my body now. I'm connected to all that is, right? So what I've been finding is so it's this idea that if you were to live this moment completely in the deep now, and then you live this moment completely in the deep now, and this moment in the deep now, right? That essentially what you're doing is hanging out in timelessness and eternity. And that's why I remember Dr. Joe years ago, his phrase for a while was to live in the generous present moment. See, when we start to get into the deep now, that's why they call it the deep now, is like it's infinite. It goes on and on and on. It's the generous present moment. It's just exquisite when you're as we start to tune ourselves more and more. So then what happens is you get to this point where it's like, I do not want my past in here, right? So I'm getting more and more just I swear I'm getting like it. Let me tell you, there's another part that I've been adding to this. I know years ago I told you all about and one of the things I was doing with the EEG work, and we were working in theta brainwaves, and the person running it was basically asking us to setting it up so that our theta brainwaves could offer up some really cool wisdom, right? And it was like, something, got us all relaxed, get us into theta, and then all of a sudden you see a book, and the book has a cover on it, and then the book has a title. What does the title say, right? And the theta brainwaves kind of give up information, right? And then it's like, oh, open up the book, what does it say? And I know I've mentioned this before, but it's really pertinent to how I'm grokking all of this now. And that is that. So again, what I see is this long, narrow, kind of like orangish book, and instead of a title on it, would be so basically afterwards she's debriefing everybody, and she's going around, and everybody's like, oh, my book said this amazing title. And then when I open it up, this book gave all this wisdom. And then the next person, oh, this great title, And then my book gave all this wisdom. And then she got to me, and it was kind of like, my book, it was like this long, narrow book. And in gold leaf, it said, your name here. It was like, you know, completely generic, right? Your name here, right? And then when I opened up the book, all the lines were blank, and the energy from the book just literally kind of like pushed me back in my chair, and it was empty, and I was like, it's empty, and so as I was trying to debrief this, I couldn't explain to people the power of this book. Like, everybody had these like beautiful words of wisdom, and I was just like, it was emptiness. Well, I've been revisiting that on this, and that is that this power of like there's this emptiness, there's this, but in some of the Buddhist literature it talks about how in form is emptiness and in emptiness is in form, and it's an emptiness that's fertile with power, right? And so I'm bringing this up now because it's been I've been as I've been behold, I see all things new. God is, God is, God is. And I start to kind of like fall into that emptiness. And, I am free, I am free, I'm free. I'm basically free of the matrix. I'm free of the hologram, right? And then you really don't you don't care about what happens. It's really interesting because they always tell you to live with that attachment. And, I've definitely challenged that over the years. But you really start to prefer literally just being in the question, because once you start telling yourself where you're going to go, what you're going to do, where's everything going to go, blah, 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 your energy field goes, right? And so it's like this idea of like, I have no idea. And I just want to be in this fertile emptiness, right? Um, so it gives, the Selig work gives this idea of us being a lamp, and you will use words like boundless, right? And so I was thinking about maybe taking that metaphor a little bit further. So actually I can see, so I guess I kind of have a lamp here. I don't know if you can see it. So if you can you see that lamp? See the lamp, right? So you got the lamp, which is the lampshade, right? And then you have the light of the lamp that extends past the shade, right? So he's basically saying that what we're going to, when you're doing this, you're basically orienting yourself to your light that is connected to everything, but you also maintain your individuality to live as a person on this plane, right? And that the goal of that work is, how do you live in oneness, still live as an individual, so you still can operate in this world, as it says in that book, you need to operate in that world, but this idea of giving yourself permission to go into that bountiful bursting energy of like who you really are, right? So um it's that idea, and then it talks a little bit about how we tend to not give ourselves permission. And so much of the Selig work, I've noticed, is it really is about giving ourselves permission, right? For years I'd always say, become intolerant of feeling miserable. It's like giving yourself permission to not be miserable, because people just assume that being miserable is just a normal thing, right? Give yourself permission to feel joy. Give yourself permission to burst into your Christ self, right? Or to your Buddha self, whatever you want to call it, right? And so playing with this bursting, boundless energy has been really, really quite wonderful. And I was telling someone today, I am getting addicted to that emptiness, but it doesn't feel like an emptiness. It feels like this boundless bursting, and it does use that word too, bursting energy. And can we just practice bringing that bursting part of your Christ self energy into all that we do, right? And this goes to the work of Brother Lawrence that I wrote about in my book. I think it's chapter 4 or 5, right? Where I give the examples of the people like Peace and everything. And, Brother Lawrence was the one that when he was a cook in a monastery. When he picked up a ladle to clean it, he would just clean it as if he was cleaning it for God, right? And this went on for 30 years. And the point in the end, he says, he basically says at the end, I can't speak to people, because if people could feel my joy, they would think I was mad. Like they would think I was crazy. I was so full of joy. And so it's just been interesting, because I've known this work, obviously I've known a lot of these pieces along the way, but now starting to tie that bursting emptiness with this reaching past the matrix into your Christ self, and to this idea that in this moment now, I'm just wanting to just like contracting into myself is just not where I want to be. I just want to be expanded, right? Because the idea is, if you're expanded and you're working online, then it says at that point that you will never ask for anything again, because you'll know that, again, life is your teacher. And it says that even though you're at this level, your body, your personality still has work to do. Like it basically says, you're not going to walk on water, you're not going to become like a magical whatever. It's like you are going to be just so fully, richly, divinely you, that you wouldn't conceive of being anything other, right? And if gifts were to emerge, great, but like you don't care. All you want to do is stay in that space. right? And that's why I was saying, after this summer and I had had that experience, that's why it was kind of like, it was like this bursting energy. And I was just like, I can't hold on to things. It's like, I just felt like it just had to, the energy just had to kind of stay open. And if there was anywhere where I was clutching, gripping, or grasping, it was like, let it go, let it go. And I was questioning myself. I was like, you know, I'm like, I can't believe why am I not fighting for like what I just put together? And why am I not fighting, but why am I not like protecting and grasping and, whatever? But at that point, it was just like, hell no, I will not go back. Like, no way. Like, I'd rather have a loose hand as I let go of the pint and my hand is open until I reach the court, like, and presumably the court being more appropriate for me than the pint. And even then, you'd hold the court lightly. But this idea of like, there's going back to the pint would be, like there's just no way I wanted to go. So, and then my theory was that if I were to stay in this pure expansion, then theoretically, anything that came to be would be more authentic, more aligned with my higher self, right? So it would therefore be stronger. And again, I went through a period, and then, like I said, I went through that one time. Then there was that one brief period of time where I was like, oh my God, what have I done? I just like let go of everything. But and then it was funny because it was soon after that things started, moving a little bit. So I don't know. I said in the beginning of this year, I am a science experiment. I am a mystery unto myself. I know that a lot of people are not in the situation when they can just kind of pick up, move, let go. I seem to be in a position in life where I'm able to follow this current. In fact, that was another part of the Selig book. It's almost like I'm a poster child for this book right now. And he talks about because of this letting go, this no longer clutching, gripping, or grasping, allowing the current to kind of, it basically says, move you around boulders, kind of take you through what you need to be taken through on. But the thing is that there's grace. And what's happening is this deeper grace. So there's this part of me that was just like, I don't know where I'm going, but I know it's good. Or, I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what's going on. But because of the process I'm going through, I'm going to trust that it can only be more appropriate, right? So he talks about the grace and then the trust, which of course goes back to Course in Miracles, the lessons of teachers, right? The advanced teachers. And trust is the very first thing. And so he said, and I mentioned this in the class last night, this idea that very often when we are working, so if we do intentions, if we're working lightly with intentions, we're going to talk about that at the end of here. Oh shoot, what was I going to say? It was something about intent. Oh shoot, I just forgot. What was I just saying? Oh, I wish I could pause. I was just saying something. I completely. It's about intentions. Okay. You know what? I bet you I'm going to remember when I kind of go through this. So let me jump to the meditation right now. Sorry. So what are we going to do in the meditation? We are going to be completely 100% okay, agree to the present moment and everything that is going on in our lives. Whether we think it's good, bad, or the ugly, we're going to basically have this this magnanimous love for anything that's going on in our lives. That's one of the approaches we're going to do. Another thing to do that is we're going to get on our line of intention. So I'm going to have you probably want to do this in a sitting meditation. If you're lying down, we've done this before. It's also called the Tai Chi pole, right? So it's that vertical power current that, according to Eastern medicine, that on our line of intention, also known as the Tai Chi pole, it's where our soul kind of emerges from the field itself. And so by aligning to that, then we get to what I'm calling base camp for heightened consciousness. right? Because we get calibrated to our Tai Chi pole or line of intention, and then, as Barbara Brennan would call it, then we are aligned to ourselves and our soul. So it's kind of like you're aligned inward and you're aligned upward, right? Which again, what are we doing? Taking that energy, bringing it back in, getting our grubby hands off the world. So we're aligning with the vertical pole. We're going to magnanimously love, just adore everything as close as you can. Just you want to be able to go through the areas of your life. And the minute you feel your field recoil, the minute you feel a little grabbing in your field, nope, you're going to let it go, and just be sweet with it, move it through. And then this idea, if we use the Selig work, is behold, I make all things new. What is that doing? It's telling us not to take the past and project it onto this present moment. Then it says, God is, God is, God is, which really reminds me of my wand, right? With the Tinkerbell wand, right? I swear that's what I was doing. What I've been doing all these years is I'll kind of wave something, right? God is, God is, God is. And then I am free, I am free, I am free. It means like I'm free from my lower self. I'm free from the personality, because that's the punchline of all of our work, is to rid ourselves of the lower personality so we can burst into the Christ self, right? And then living from that perspective is a totally different magical mystery tour, right? It's a totally different ride. So then and then it says you would never ask for anything. So that is interesting, right? So if we were to not ask for anything, I got to tell you, after years of doing this work, though, I remember, because I would sometimes do classes on uncertainty or on impermanence, and I noticed that if there's not like an organizing element in our lives, then I have not yet to see things really congeal as well in life. If you don't have, I feel like I've seen that a gazillion times. So this idea of like an organizing element, kind of like iron shavings, right? Like that you could just throw all the iron shavings down and it's just kind of a pile, but you put a magnet into it and then they emerge into an image, right? Not an image, but into a design, right? Looks like a well laid out design. So when we are doing this, we can, I'm going to add to this, that we add a very light, intentional focus, because we're asking the energy to organize in some way that would help. But then the idea is like, you then complete let go, like you have no attachment to it. And so how can we set an intention and have it like not feel a thing in your body when you set the intention? And that's been a lot of my growth as well, is how can I not feel my intention? And we've been cleaning our fields for so long. Now, for some people in the beginning of their work, they'd be like, of course I don't feel my thoughts. Like why would I feel a thought? Why would I feel an intention? But we've been working for a while, so we'll probably we're much more sensitive to a thought and what's happening in our field. So how do we find this space where we can set this intention and have it just be the light that I've been talking about for years, right? But what does that light mean? It means that we're expanded, we're calibrated, and behold, I make all things new, right? And then and you'll find that sometimes the colors will get really bright, and it's just it's interesting after all this study for all these years, where it's almost like the distance to here, right? The distance to the absolute exquisite simplicity of this present moment, of the deep now and the richness of being and being, and as Annie was talking about in class, and just finding that richness so rich that that's why I'm saying I'm getting addicted to it, like just like I just, a lot of times I'm just wanting to go to the emptiness, and anyways. So I don't know where this is going. I do know it's a really fun way to work. Oh, I know what it was. It was if we set an intention. So it was basically saying that, and we talked about this last night, so I'm just reminding you. And that is that, remember when I was saying that when we send intentions, oftentimes when they do come back, because I've learned there's a lot of karma going on and stuff like that, and but when the intentions do come back, often they come back with an elegance. The word I've been using is an elegance that we could not have projected. There's something in the mix when the intention comes back, and the universe almost like has to throw its little flair on it before it hands it back to us. Like this idea of, we didn't create it all, because the universe stepped in and connected a dot that we didn't even see, that we didn't even know was close, and then handed it back to us and went ta-da, and we're like, oh my gosh, like look at that intention, and look at how it also includes this and this, right? Like I was only asking for this, but then the intention comes back and it got this and this to it, right? Now the work, Selig's work, basically said the reason why that happens, I mean, I've noticed it for years, so it was so fun to see it written in a book. He said the reason why that happens is so that we know that we develop greater trust, right? So we develop greater trust. So then so then the next time we're more just able to just live in that emptiness, just live in that openness, and we know that whatever life sends us is appropriate, right? So I find that so interesting, because is just that idea of more and more trust, of just more and more walking and knowing that everything around you is your teacher. It's about walking the game of trust now. Maybe I just kind of answer my own, like, what are the new rules? I get that's a huge part of the new rules, and that's backed up by the Course. It's one of the first things is trust. So new rules are, outcomes are not important. And you could say that, but the ego would hate that. But when you're in the energy, you don't care. Like, you're like, I'm good. Like, and that's what the Selig work is basically saying in the end, is like, if you knew the level from which you could really live, if you knew the level from which you could give yourself permission to really live, like the truthness of you, truthiness of you, or the boundfulness, or the bounty, the boundlessness, the bursting. If you knew, like and I've been saying gorgeousness for years, right? But definitely feeling like this bursting energy, like you can't even imagine shutting it down, because it's just, but he's like, if you gave yourself permission to live from that, like then one, you wouldn't have a worry in the world, and two, anything that does come your way, even if it's challenging, it's divinely appointed, it's part of your journey, and so you meet it with a friendly nod, because you'll know you'll be given the grace to go through it, right? So I always give the example of when my mom had cancer, and it was miserable, but I wouldn't let it be. And now I guess I was realizing, as I was inviting these kind of Christ consciousness connections to come in during the most miserable times, and there's a lightness about it, a resilience about it. And so just if we can start playing this month of really making it over on the veil to the other side, do whatever pronouncements you need to use. I'll offer what Selig is offering, but what's meaningful to you, that you're reminding yourself, this is the journey. Don't get stuck here in Maya. Don't get stuck here in the 3D world. We're going to go full over, right? And then what would a life be, from that bursting energy, and just seeing how life rolls. All right, so I'll go make the meditation. Thank you all so much. I'll give you another date for, I guess, next month, which will be November. And it was so nice to catch up with everybody last night, and to just share these journeys. It's so sweet and so meaningful. And I always say this, but thank y'all for 6+ years. All right, take care. Bye-bye.